Managing a club in a top league has to be the hardest job in football. Most of you look at football managers and think that it's a party all night for them, while instead, these guys are always a loss away from doing deliveries for Uber Eats. I once tried managing a local boys team and we lost 3 out of 3 in a tournament. They never saw my face again. So the other day, I'm scrolling aimlessly and I come across a guy called Leroy Resinia. I'm sure that 99% of you have no idea who this guy is. Apparently, this guy was appointed as manager for a team called Torquay United. Long story short, this guy lasted only 10 minutes in his job.
What?
Surely, this has to be the worst managerial spell in football history. So this got me thinking, which other managers have had managerial spells from hell? The first one is a manager I personally like, but for some reason, this guy is despised more than football OnlyFans models. I'm talking about the man himself, David Moyes. From 2013 to 2017, this guy's career was down bad in the trenches. He was taking more L's in his career than Will Smith in his marriage. Moyes went from a steady, stable job at Everton to taking the biggest job in English football. He was replacing arguably the greatest manager in football history. I don't know what Moyes was thinking, but this alone should have told him that this job was going to be more difficult than trying to pull a body while still living in your mother's basement. At Manchester United, he was given a team of reigning champions, and let's be honest, this guy had no idea of what to do with this team. He was used to mediocre players at Everton for 11 years, and then in a snap of a finger, you give him the English champions. Even I wouldn't know what to do. 10 months into his 6-year contract, he was sacked and replaced with Ryan Giggs. Yes, the same evil Ryan Giggs. I'm sorry, but getting replaced with Ryan Giggs has to be a personal low for Moyes. After staying jobless for a couple of months, Moyes decided that this was the perfect time to move out of England for Spain. You know, to get away from the idle English media and its scrutiny.
That's a great idea.
Moyes was appointed as manager for Real Sociedad in November 2014, and from the very start, this did not look like it will go well for Moyes. For starters, he was given a Real Sociedad team that was lying 15th in the league table. He got a famous win against Barcelona, but that was about it for his time at Real Sociedad. He was sacked the very next November of the next year for starting the season slower than that particular character from Zootopia. After staying unemployed and filling job applications for months, in 2016, he was back in the Premier League with Sunderland. You know, managing in a league that he's used to manage for more than 10 years.
That's a great idea.
His time at Sunderland was filled with controversies and bad results. At the end of April 2017, Sunderland lost to Bournemouth, and for the first time in 10 years, Moyes had managed to relegate Sunderland.
God, please, no! No! No!
A day after the league ended, Moyes did exactly what I will do. He resigned. At this point, he just needed a rest. Now, let's move from a manager I like to a manager that gives me nightmares every night. This guy is responsible for one of my worst days in my life. I'm talking about QQ Setien. Every Barca fan will remember this guy as the guy responsible for this result. This guy is the reason I still go to therapy. The worst part is that even before this Bayern Munich thrashing, QQ Setien had already thrown Barcelona under a moving bus. This guy took over from Ernesto Valverde in January 2020 while Barcelona was sitting comfortably in first place. He comes in and the first thing he did was to shift the team from a 4-3-3 to a 3-4-3 mid-season. It was at this point that I knew my boy Setien had lost the plot. What followed were losses and draws. Even when Barca won, it was scrappy wins, and this was due to the fact that Barcelona still had the best player in the planet. Otherwise, I'm convinced that Barca would have finished at least 5th in the league. Barcelona ended up finishing 2nd after handing the league on a silver plate to Real Madrid. By the time Barca were playing Bayern, something inside me was telling me that this was a weak Barca team. Trying to work these weak tactics against a managerial monster like Hansi Flick was surely not doing the magic. Setien ended up getting crushed 8-2 in a one-leg quarter-final match. Saying this alone is starting to make me sick in my stomach. I still don't understand how this guy is not locked up in Guantanamo Bay. 3 days later, after this disaster class, QQ Setien was sacked and replaced with Ronald Koeman, who is a story for another day. Another manager who might just be the worst manager of all time is Paul Jewell. And I know you are asking yourselves, Who? This guy is responsible for managing the worst team in the Premier League. Paul Jewell was appointed as manager of Derby County in November 2007, and what followed was the worst managerial showcase in history. Derby County could only manage 11 points from 38 games. They only managed to get 3 points from all away games they played. The fact that Southampton almost broke Derby County's record is just diabolical. Now, if there's something you don't want as a Premier League manager who is having a terrible season, is for your sex tapes to leak. Yeah, this guy's sex tapes got leaked right in the middle of his worst managerial spell. Paul Jewell resigned at the end of 2008, leaving Derby County in 18th place in the championship. This guy must be
One of Satan's greatest soldiers.
another manager who is one of the greatest players in history, but might just be total booty chicks in management, is Thierry Henry. This guy got the job at Monaco in October 2018, and I don't think I've seen a manager being so out of depth in the French league. To be fair to Henry, he was given a team that was sitting 18th in the league, again in the French league. You'd think that under a new manager, the only way is up for a team sitting 18th, but no. Thierry Henry somehow managed to make this team even worse. By the time he was getting sacked in January, Monaco were in 19th place. After this, Henry went back to being a pundit, which I totally encourage. Another pundit who totally failed as a manager is Gary Neville. This guy was appointed as manager for Valencia in December 2015, and what followed was not football. I don't know what it was. Never have I seen a manager set up a team so defensively and still conceding so many goals. Gary Neville walked to a Copa del Rey semi-final against Barcelona and collected 7 goals. This is a 2-leg fixture we are talking about, by the way, and you already collecting 7 in the first leg. To be fair, the second leg ended 1-1, and this might just be the best result Gary Neville got when managing Valencia. By the time he was getting sacked in March, Valencia were in 14th place and had only won 3 games under Gary Neville, while managing to keep 0 clean sheets. Managing to keep 0 clean sheets while your manager used to be an actual defender is just crazy. Nowadays, he glazes Man United for a living, and rightfully so, cause this guy can't manage shit.
You don't have future here. You don't have future. You can never make it. You're supposed to be a dinner man, serving dinner to the students in the secondary school.
A manager who had a terrible managerial spell that I just feel sorry for is Frank de Boer. Crystal Palace should just burn in hell for what they did to this guy. I'm sure that 80% of you didn't know that this guy managed in the Premier League. I'm sure that at least 30% of you don't even know who this guy is. Frank de Boer was appointed as Crystal Palace manager in June 2017. The club was tired with big old Sam Allardyce and wanted something fresh for the new season. In comes Frank de Boer, former Barcelona and Ajax player, a possession-based manager who came in to revolutionize Crystal Palace. He lasted only 4 Premier League games. 4 Premier League games. 4 Premier League games was enough to convince the Palace board that this guy is a walking bag of trash. I know that this guy is trash, but giving him just 4 league games is just evil. The Joker will be proud, by the way.
Whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you stranger.
Tell me which other managers have had managerial spells from hell, and also don't forget to tell me where you are watching from. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, and share it with your friends, your mama, and that buddy who will never be yours. See you in the next one.